I've always been attracted to and appreciate people who are passionate about things. And in my job, working for the MTA for 33 years, I came across a few people, not many, but a few that were exceptional. And they're train buffs, the two of them especially. And we get together and go to trade shows together. This was one at Hoboken that we've been to before. Wasn't quite as big a group of us, but it's always fun to hook back up and see each other. And just I revel in the knowledge and passion that they have for the trains. Um, may not have been a train buff, as I said. I've always, even as a child, I wasn't really interested in trains. I was into cars and motorcycles, still am. More so cars, especially Subarus, shameless plug. Um, but I really do enjoy, the energy of being around someone who has a passion for stuff, and I definitely have no problem like deferring and soaking up any uh, knowledge that I can from them, but also I'm guilty of being an imperfect perfectionist, so I do try to do the best that I can at whatever I'm involved in, and I'm real nitpicky about details, so I guess that helped me get through my, I don't know, whatever it was, like 26 years as a motorman for New York City Transit. Um, because it is a job that's interesting in a way, because every day is different. You never know exactly what you're going to face. You got to be pretty much prepared for everything. And you're responsible for the safety of the equipment as well as the passengers. So even though the job changed dramatically during the years that I was a train operator, um, it did appeal to that part of my brain that needs to analytically understand things rather than rote learn, and to have much more of a hands-on. But then there were other parts of the job that drove me just absolutely insane. I don't like being in confined spaces and sitting in one place. And I started out as a railroad clerk, and who would think that I would go from that little token booth to an even smaller space in the operating cab of a train? But at least with being a motorman or a train operator, you're moving. You're going different places. You get off the train. As a clerk, it was literally like being locked in a jail cell, hoping that you were gonna get out on time after your tour because you had to be relieved. But anyway, I digress. Um, this was cool walking through the double-decker buses, and I mean buses, listen to me, double-decker train, um, and just seeing different cabs and the similarities of different equipment, um, you know, and of course always the hookup with my people. It's just funny how we just bump into each other. It's like, oh man, I haven't seen you, in a year, but here we are because of that common interest. I wish more of this would happen more often. We got to definitely keep in touch, meet some good people, look at the smiles. We obviously enjoy being together. And of course, my brother that posted with me years ago, and immediately I was like, yo, don't just stay with New York City Transit. And he's moved on. And yeah, he's out there doing his thing now on Metro North. And, as an old dude, yeah, I can't tell you how proud of him I am and how pleased I am to see that he did follow up on that and kept moving on to bigger and better things. I could definitely see him, like, don't get me started. I have so much respect for this young man. I want to see him push his boundaries and not get bored or tired or stuck in one place. So yeah, we keep in touch. And I think there's also in other ways, just I did not want to be one of those people that was trying to be 20 the rest of the 30 or 40 the rest of my life. Um, Anything that I've learned and experienced, I try to share, um, so that you know that I live by that phrase, or saying that try to be for others what you needed at that age. So when I meet somebody, coming up, whether it was in posting or training in New York City Transit. Um, I always had the mindset of what didn't I get when I was posting, or what information would have made it easier for me to learn um, through someone else's experience rather than having to learn by either mistakes and getting taken out of service or having a signal overrun or an incident. Um, it's very, let's just say, the training is extremely lacking in New York City Transit. And when I started, you learn things by making mistakes. Um, the mistakes weren't the end of your career and you weren't immediately taken out of service because they were expecting you to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. There was nothing more scary or didn't put a tattoo on your brain and raise your heart rate and blood pressure than your first signal overrun. But now the way they train you, or the lack of training and the lack of um, allowance for you to hit a signal, etc., puts people in a situation where, on one hand, in New York City Transit, they were starting to really push us to go by timers that are yellow, etc., in timing areas, just things that inevitably would lead to a mistake. Everything in the transit system is poorly maintained, liable to failure. There are so many factors that contribute to um, the inconsistency of things. So speedometers on the trains aren't calibrated, different weather conditions, different temperature, friction changes, in very cold environments, roughly I'd say about under 20 degrees. When we go into stations, you can see the fluorescent lights are significantly more dim. Um, the mechanical things that put the train into emergency in a signal overrun, for example, in a timing area, when it gets colder, the grease gets thicker. As the grease gets thicker, it slows down the device because the mechanical gears have a thicker grease in them. It's just all of these multitudes of factors that you learn from experience that I tried to pass on. And that's my other brother. It's almost like two generations of people. I got a couple years on both of them. But yeah, and he went to Long Island Railroad. And it's just ironic that, even though, like I said, I'm not a train buff, all the things that we have in common, he loves, bike riding, and he's actually more of a distance runner than I am, but we both have running and riding and photography and all this stuff in common. Um, but our bro is amazing with the things that he does with his model railroading, etc., including working at a shop out that I have to come visit, check him out on one day. But it's a bit of a hack to go out there. I think it's out in Mineola in Long Island, but he's working for Long Island Railroad, so maybe it's one of the places that he can stop after work in the morning and work for a little bit. But another one, bro. It's so important, these meetups, because the energy of the brothers and sisters getting together and sharing our knowledge and experience from all of these years that we've been with railroading. It's almost a book wanting to be written of the generations of black men and women who have been doing this, both at home and abroad. It's ironic when I see, how on the continent and the Caribbean that these are jobs that we've traditionally done.